The gap between who you are and who you want to become isn't closed by motivation. It's bridged by the sacred act of showing up when you don't feel like it. What if I told you that the secret to transforming your life, your relationships, and your destiny isn't hidden in some complex formula or expensive course? What if the key to everything you've ever wanted lies in something so simple that most people dismiss it as ordinary? Today, we're diving deep into the most powerful force in human existence: consistency. This isn't just another motivational talk. This is your blueprint for becoming unstoppable. By the end of this video, you'll understand why forcing yourself to be consistent is the ultimate act of self-love and the foundation of every great achievement. If you're ready to stop living in cycles of start and stop and finally create the life you deserve, then this message is for you. Let's begin. Character isn't what you do when people are watching. It's what you do when no one is there to applaud, acknowledge, or even notice. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply when he wrote in his personal journal, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." He wasn't performing for an audience. He was forging his character in the quiet moments of self-reflection and daily practice. Your character is revealed not in grand gestures but in the mundane repetition of right choices. Think about the person you admire most. What makes them extraordinary isn't a single heroic act. It's the 1,000 small acts of integrity, kindness, and dedication that no one saw. They showed up when they didn't feel like it. They kept their word when it was inconvenient. They practiced their craft when inspiration was nowhere to be found. This is consistency as character in motion, and it's the foundation of all genuine transformation. In your relationships, consistency of character means being the same person in private as you are in public. It means keeping your promises not because someone is forcing you, but because your word is your bond. When you say you'll call, you call. When you commit to being present, you show up fully. This isn't about perfection. It's about reliability. People don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be consistent. They need to know that the person they connected with yesterday is the same person who will show up tomorrow. The ancient Stoics believed that virtue was the only true good, and virtue is nothing more than consistent right action over time. Aristotle taught that we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act but a habit. Your character is being sculpted every single day by your choices. Every time you choose consistency over convenience, discipline over impulse, commitment over comfort, you're not just doing something, you're becoming someone. You're becoming the person who can be trusted, relied upon, and respected. The beautiful truth about consistency of character is that it creates a positive feedback loop. The more consistently you act with integrity, the stronger your self-respect becomes. The stronger your self-respect, the easier it becomes to make choices aligned with your values. This isn't willpower, this is identity. You're not forcing yourself to be consistent, you're honoring who you've decided to become. The person you're becoming demands consistency, and consistency shapes the person you're becoming. The concept of compound interest isn't just a financial principle, it's a life principle. Albert Einstein allegedly called it the eighth wonder of the world, and if you understand its power in the realm of daily habits and consistent action, you'll understand why small choices create massive destinies. The Stoic philosophers understood this intuitively. Epictetus taught that no great thing is created suddenly, and Seneca reminded us that every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Consider the oak tree that starts as an acorn. 4 months, even years, there's no visible progress above ground. The casual observer might assume nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, an intricate root system is developing, creating the foundation for what will eventually become a mighty tree that can withstand storms and live for centuries. Your daily consistent actions are like those invisible roots. They're creating the infrastructure for extraordinary results that haven't yet become visible. In relationships, this principle is profound. The couple that has been married for 50 years didn't build their love in dramatic moments. They built it in small, daily acts of consideration, patience, and care. The phone call to check in, the cup of coffee brought without being asked, the listening ear offered after a difficult day, the choice to speak kindly even when frustrated. These seemingly insignificant moments compound into unbreakable bonds. Love isn't just a feeling. It's a practice, and like all practices, its power lies in consistent repetition. The mathematics of consistency are staggering. If you improve by just 1% each day, you'll be 37 times better by the end of the year. But if you decline by 1% each day, you'll decline to nearly zero. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. The person who exercises for 30 minutes every day will be in better shape than the person who exercises for 3 hours once a week. The person who reads for 20 minutes daily will be more knowledgeable than the person who reads for 5 hours once a month. Your brain is literally rewiring itself based on your repeated actions. Neuroscience shows us that neurons that fire together wire together. Every time you choose consistency over comfort, you're strengthening the neural pathways associated with discipline, reliability, and self-control. You're literally becoming a different person at the cellular level. The compound effect isn't just changing your circumstances, it's changing your identity. Most people have the relationship between discipline and freedom completely backwards. They see discipline as a cage, a limitation, a sacrifice of spontaneity and joy. But the Stoics understood a profound truth. Discipline is the pathway to freedom, not the enemy of it. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the known world, chose to live by strict principles not because he had to, but because discipline gave him the freedom to be who he truly wanted to be. Think about the musician who practices scales daily. To the untrained eye, this looks like monotonous restriction. But this daily discipline creates the freedom to express any musical idea that comes to mind. The fingers know where to go without conscious thought. The mind is free to create because the foundation has been built through consistent practice. This is the paradox of discipline. It constrains you in small ways to liberate you in profound ways. In your relationships, discipline creates the freedom to love fully. When you discipline yourself to listen without interrupting, you create the freedom for deeper connection. When you discipline yourself to speak kindly even when angry, you create the freedom for trust to flourish. When you discipline yourself to keep your commitments, you create the freedom for others to rely on you completely. Discipline in relationships isn't about rigid rules. It's about creating the conditions where love can thrive. Financial discipline creates the freedom from money worries. Physical discipline creates the freedom of health and energy. Emotional discipline creates the freedom from being controlled by your circumstances. Intellectual discipline creates the freedom of clear thinking and wise decisions. In every area of life, discipline acts as the foundation that supports the structure of freedom. The undisciplined person might appear free, but they're actually enslaved to their impulses, their emotions, their circumstances, and their inconsistencies. They can't be trusted with important responsibilities because they can't trust themselves. They can't pursue their dreams because they lack the foundation of consistent action. They can't build deep relationships because others can't rely on them. What looks like freedom is actually the most restrictive prison of all. True freedom comes from self-mastery, and self-mastery comes from the discipline of consistency. When you can rely on yourself to do what you say you'll do, when you say you'll do it, regardless of how you feel, you become truly free. You're no longer a victim of your moods, your circumstances, or your impulses. You become the author of your own story, the architect of your own destiny. Trust is the currency of all meaningful relationships, and consistency is how that currency is earned, maintained, and multiplied. The Stoic philosophers understood that relationships are built not on grand gestures or passionate declarations, but on the steady reliability of daily interactions. Seneca wrote, "Every new friendship is like a new language. It takes time to learn to speak it fluently." That fluency comes through consistent practice and reliable presence. Trust isn't built in moments. It's built in days, weeks, months, and years of consistent behavior. It's showing up when you said you would. It's keeping confidences shared in vulnerable moments. It's being the same person whether you're in a good mood or struggling with challenges. It's choosing to respond with patience when patience isn't your natural inclination. These small, consistent choices create a foundation of trust so strong that it can weather any storm. Consider the parent who consistently keeps their promises to their child. The child learns that their parent's word has meaning, that they can depend on what's been said. This creates not just trust, but security, the deep knowledge that they are valued and prioritized. This security becomes the foundation for the child's ability to trust others throughout their life. Conversely, the parent who makes promises lightly and breaks them casually teaches their child that words are meaningless and people are unreliable. In romantic relationships, consistency creates the safety necessary for deep intimacy. When your partner knows they can count on your love not just when things are easy, but especially when things are difficult, they can fully open their heart to you. They don't have to guard themselves against your inconsistency or wonder which version of you will show up today. This emotional safety allows love to flourish in ways that passion alone never could. Professional relationships thrive on consistency as well. The colleague who consistently delivers quality work on time, who consistently communicates clearly, who consistently treats others with respect, becomes the person others want to work with, promote, and trust with greater responsibilities. Consistency in professional relationships doesn't just build trust, it builds careers. The beautiful aspect of consistent trust building is that it creates a positive spiral. The more trustworthy you become, the more others trust you. The more others trust you, the more opportunities you have to demonstrate trustworthiness. The more you demonstrate trustworthiness, the more you become someone who can be trusted with greater responsibilities, deeper relationships, and more meaningful connections. Trust begets trust, and it all starts with the decision to be consistent in your words and actions. There's a profound conversation happening right now between who you are today and who you're becoming tomorrow. Your future self is sitting somewhere in possibility, hoping that your current self will make the choices that create the life they want to live. This isn't mystical thinking. This is practical wisdom that the Stoics understood deeply. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that his present actions were creating his future character and circumstances. Every choice you make today is either a gift to your future self or a burden you're placing on their shoulders. When you choose to exercise today, you're giving your future self the gift of health and energy. When you choose to skip it, you're asking your future self to carry the weight of that decision. When you choose to save money today, you're providing your future self with options and security. When you spend impulsively, you're limiting their choices and creating their stress. In relationships, this principle is especially powerful. When you choose to be patient with your spouse today instead of snapping at them, you're building the marriage your future self will inhabit. When you choose to really listen to your child instead of half listening while checking your phone, you're creating the relationship with them that will exist when they're adults. When you choose to maintain friendships through consistent contact and care, you're ensuring that your future self won't be lonely and isolated. The concept of temporal landmarks helps us understand this better. Your future self will look back at today as a pivotal moment. The day you decided to change, the day you started being consistent, the day you stopped making excuses and started making progress. They'll remember today as the turning point, or they'll remember it as another day of delay and procrastination. Which memory are you creating for them? This perspective transforms the way you view consistency. It's no longer about forcing yourself to do difficult things. It's about loving your future self enough to make choices they'll thank you for. It's about being the ancestor of your own destiny, planting trees whose shade you'll enjoy later. The Stoics believed in living according to nature, and it's natural to care for your future well-being just as you would care for a child or loved one. Your future self doesn't need you to be perfect. They need you to be consistent. They need you to show up day after day, making the small choices that compound into the extraordinary life they're hoping to live. They're counting on you. And the beautiful truth is that every day you choose consistency, you become more worthy of their trust. The path to becoming the person you're meant to be isn't complicated, but it is demanding. It requires you to force yourself to be consistent, not because consistency is easy, but because consistency is transformative. It's the bridge between dreams and reality, between intention and manifestation, between who you are and who you're becoming. The Stoics taught us that we don't control what happens to us, but we absolutely control how we respond. Consistency is your response to life's chaos, your answer to uncertainty, your commitment to growth regardless of circumstances. When you force yourself to be consistent, you're not just changing your behavior, you're changing your identity. You're becoming someone who can be counted on, someone who honors their commitments, someone who builds, rather than destroys. Your relationships will transform when consistency becomes your standard. Your goals will shift from wishful thinking to inevitable outcomes. Your character will develop the strength to weather any storm. Your future self will thank you for the choices you make starting today. The gap between who you are and who you want to become closes not through dramatic gestures, but through the sacred act of showing up consistently, especially when you don't feel like it. The time for excuses has passed. The time for inconsistency has ended. Today is the day you begin the most important relationship of your life, the relationship with the person you're becoming through consistent action. Force yourself to be consistent not because you have to, but because you love yourself and your future too much to accept anything less. Thank you for investing this time in your growth and transformation. The fact that you've stayed until the end tells me something important about you. You're serious about change, and you understand that real transformation comes through understanding, not just inspiration. Take these ideas and make them your own. Start small, start today, and start with the faith that consistency will carry you to places motivation never could. Your future self is waiting, and they believe in you. Now go make them proud.